Hi, you are listening to The Outside Story, a podcast dedicated to film and TV shows from an outside perspective. Today, we are wrapping up our October Halloween special for this year with this final episode. Now, this year we didn't cover too many films compared to our first Halloween special, but we enjoyed it just as much, if not more, than before. Jonathan, what did you think of this year's Halloween special?
This year is definitely shorter. And I also kind of felt like maybe we should have done more,
Yeah, I felt the same way too.
Because like there were some weeks where I was just kind of like, or some days where I was just sitting there and I'm just like, man, I want to watch a scary movie, but I don't really want to watch it just to watch it, Like I want to watch it and talk about it, like, because I feel like horror is one of those genres where like you watch and like it garners so much attention, like at least the good horror films do. Like they're just kind of like, oh, like I want you to think about me and I want you to think about like the impact that I have and stuff like that, Not all horror films do, but the ones that we really enjoy, like they definitely do that. And so I kind of wish there was more, but I will take it for what it is. And I very much enjoyed this year. Like some of my favorites were definitely One Cut of the Dead, probably like my favorite out of the entire like things that we chose, and that was kind of like a random one too, right? Like we just looked up a list and was like, oh, a Japanese film, let's do this, and I ended up loving it. I don't know, I can't speak for you, but
Oh yeah, I liked it a lot too. Yeah.
And then Train to Busan, of course, a little slow on that train. But I eventually saw it and loved it. And then, of course, Bly Manor. Like, it was no surprise that we were both going to love Bly Manor. So, yeah, those were some of my favorites from this year. I mean, overall, it was all, I think, really good. Like, were there any bad films? Besides Peninsula, I can't think of any.
No, probably not, no.
But Peninsula was so bad.
Yeah, actually, what surprised me the most was Underwater.
Okay.
Yeah, only because I didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
I've only seen like previews and teasers. I'm like, okay, it doesn't look that great, but actually giving it a shot and knowing it's about like Lovecraft Cthulhu stuff, I was like, oh, it had potential, but it actually surprised me the most just because of the visual effects and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like I would say that it didn't get that many good reviews. Like people didn't love it, and so I thought when we had chosen it, I was like, oh man, this could be really bad. But it was actually a lot better than I had expected too. So I agree with you.
Yeah. Lovecraft Country also surprised me, but then that's debatable because it's Jordan Peele's on it. So
we don't really know. I mean, have you read any articles or like looked up any interviews on like his involvement in the show? I feel like a lot of it was Misha Green, right? She was kind of the showrunner.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because like even just kind of like looking at tweets from the actors and actresses and seeing how they like talk about Misha Green, I think it's mainly Misha Green.
Yeah, she's
as like the main showrunner.
Yeah, she's so good, and I'm excited. She do like a TV show on like the Underground Railroad and stuff too.
Yeah, it was called Underground. Came out like a couple of years ago, but then they canceled. Season 2, I think.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I hope she gets to do more stuff, and especially because like we need people like Jordan Peele, right? Who are now like he's famous enough to be an exec producer, and so he's gonna pick up people like Misha Green. He's not gonna cancel second seasons of stuff like Underground, Right. And so hopefully she's gonna put out more stuff. I'm really excited for what she's gonna be bringing to the table too, especially for horror.
Yeah, definitely. And then, of course, like you, Train to Busan as well, because people keep hyping it up, and it can't be that great. Oh, yeah. it's pretty good.
Oh, man. So
I can't believe we haven't seen it.
Oh, man.
But
I think
you
it's
know
also
what?
Because, like, I guess everybody, not everybody, but at least I know for me, like, if people are like, "Oh, this is so good, you should do it," it's like it makes me less inclined to do it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, no, thank you.
Yeah, that's why I'm always hesitant when you recommend something. I was like, I don't know if you're just like
That's true.
Just saying it because you love it
That's
or
true.
it's actually really good. But the two times you have recommended me something, they actually have been good.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and I also feel like we're pretty much on the only one that we might disagree with is Goat. Like other than that,
yeah.
like all the stuff that like I've recommended, you've pretty much enjoyed.
All right. So I guess the next thing I want to ask, was there any particular set of genres or films you would have liked to add to this year's Halloween special?
I don't know. I feel like when it comes to horror, there's so many different possibilities, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
to these things. And I guess like maybe like European horror, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
'Cause last year we watched a French film, and that one I loved that one, but I know for you it created a new
A new
trigger for
phobia.
you.
A new phobia, yes.
Yeah, a phobia of gore and
Mm-hmm.
raw flesh and stuff like that. Yeah, but I love that film a lot, and that film's called Raw. For those of you who may not have listened to last year's, like it's such a good film, and it was a French film, and I really liked it. But I feel like we didn't really touch upon European films, and I also think that like maybe Southeast Asian horror should kind of also have its own like episode as well, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
Southeast Asian horror, the ones that we've seen are Shudder and Dearest Sister, and I feel like those were both amazing films, and so I'm also excited to see what might come out of Southeast Asia. Is Indonesia considered Southeast Asia, or is that like Pacific Island?
I would consider it.
Southeast
I
Asia.
would consider it, yeah.
Yeah, because some people also group up the Philippines into Southeast Asia too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it
Mhm.
is. Um, and so yeah, but yeah, so like I feel like we haven't even touched Indonesian films,
Mhm.
when it comes to horror, and so that also might be
Yeah.
interesting to look into. And then movies that I want to watch particularly, two of them that like just kind of caught my attention, but like they're really white, I guess, so it's just
Oh, okay.
like I don't really want to like spend time watching these films. I'd rather spend our time watching films that people may not have heard about. And so these two are called The Shed and It Follows. And I heard It Follows is really good. A lot of people recommend that one. And then The Shed came up randomly in my Instagram feed, and I saw a trailer and I was like, okay, that looks good. And so I would have added those, and I think I'm gonna watch those sometime this week before Halloween actually comes. What about for you?
For me, I really enjoyed like Night of the Living Dead, like the really old film. Like so I would have liked a section where we would just maybe talk about classic horror films.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
I wouldn't even mind going back to silent to silent film era. Like cuz like
Nosferatu and stuff.
sure, yeah, cuz I watched a lot of I didn't watch a lot of it, but I watched a couple like in college when I was
Yeah.
studying film. And so like they're still pretty good for a reason,
Yeah.
So I maybe like a section for that. I think that would be nice to kind of go and explore and say, hey, this thing still holds up. Like, no, this thing is
Yeah.
just dreadfully slow, so it might not hold up at all.
Yeah.
Just kind
the
of review that.
classics. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm. And then also, I would like to watch an entire anthology of something. So either like all of Are You Afraid of the Dark, or like maybe like one whole season,
Mhm.
or one whole season of Goosebumps or something.
Yeah.
I think that would be really really fun. Just like binge, because they're really nice and bite sized.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to the most for next year's Halloween special?
I feel like horror is this sort of like I guess it's not fair to say horror is just this, but like other genres too. So just film in general is changing a lot. Like we see like even outside horror, right? Like the superhero genre. We first started off with like movies like X-Men and Spider-Man, and then today we have like cinematic giants like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like film is just kind of ever evolving, and I think horror is not immune to that, and I think that horror is actually one that is like has changed the most from what it used to be. Like we talk about this a lot on this podcast, especially during like the Halloween special, is that like the type of horror that we watch is not like what people think of when they think horror,
Right.
and I've had like a handful of friends come to me and be like, oh yeah, like it's so interesting like hearing you guys talk about horror because like that's not my experience with it, and I'm just like, listen, y'all are watching the wrong stuff. You know what I mean? Like you need to watch stuff with me, and we're gonna watch some good horror, and so I'm just excited for whatever it is that's coming, and it's usually good. You once in a while you get a bad nugget like The Turning or The Grudge, January, that came out in January, but
Yeah.
for the most part, like they're fairly good. So I don't know, just excited for horror films to come out in general.
Yeah, I would like to see more Lovecraft stuff. Something I really enjoy, and there's a ton of story. There's a ton of things you can pull from it. H.P. Lovecraft has a ton of short stories anyone can adapt from, and they don't even have to be horror. Because there's even a couple where he talks where it's like more survival. That genre where it's like someone's trying to survive in the wilderness for X amount of days or years till someone gets help. Like he's even touched upon stories like that too. So I would like to see more like Lovecraft stories, and also I want to see like a return of like Japanese horror, because we reviewed Ju-on Origins and that one was pretty good. We really enjoyed it. But the last Japanese horror film I saw, like outside of like One Cut of the Dead and Ju-on Origins, was this Japanese film called Tag, which is like, I watched this a couple years ago, and this was like part of an anthology film series too. So it was like the fifth one in its series, and it was really bad. Like it was not good. Like the plot twist. I'm just gonna say it now because you're not gonna watch this film. This film was bad. Yeah. The plot twist is sort of like, so this girl kind of experiences different like visions or different things, where like she experiences one horror dream, and she experiences the same thing with like the same characters but like in a different setting. And then the plot twist is that it turns out she's like trapped in some reality switching machine controlled by this evil mastermind that's trying to like get her affection or something. I'm like, bro, like that is like the crappiest storyline I've ever heard of. And I know Japanese storytelling has done better. Like my problem, like I always hate nagging on like Japanese storytelling, because anime is so popular now. A lot of live action films tend to take plots and similar setups and structures from anime, but it's like you can't do that. Like there's a huge difference in its mediums, and so Tag was just like a complete blatant ripoff of something you would find in anime. Like that kind of storyline you can believe it in anime, but you can't believe it in like reality. And so and so I would like to see like more Japanese horror films, because for a while they've been kind of quiet. And the last thing we saw was One Cut of the Dead. And I'm even like looking at their old stuff in like in the mid 2000s or 2000. I'm like, man, there's actually still a lot of horror films, Japanese horror films that we haven't touched on yet. And so that's something I would like to see. Maybe that's something we can cover next year as well.
Yeah, and kind of adding to that too, maybe an episode on like anime horror,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because there are a handful of those too. And then one was just remade for this year too, and so I kind of want to watch that one, but I don't know when it's gonna stop airing or when it's gonna be done. I mean,
it's a rather small niche, but it does exist. And if you don't think those cute anime girls can scare the hell out of you, oh yeah, they definitely can. And the thing is, like the show John's talking about is called When They Cry, or Higurashi. That's what they call it. It's referring to like cicadas when they cry during summer. And I've seen the original anime series, and that anime is pretty dang scary. It's pretty like horrifying. So if you don't think they can do it in anime, oh yeah, they can definitely do it. It'll get like under your skin. That kind of horror.
Ugh, don't say that.
Literally under your skin. Okay.
Man.
Was there any honorable mentions you want to bring up for this year? Because we couldn't talk about too many films.
Yeah. For this year, not really. It's just the one that I had mentioned from last year, Raw. That one's really good. I definitely recommend it if you haven't seen it.
I actually really enjoyed #Alive. It just came out like literally last month or something. That was last month? No, this month. Was it this month or last month? I don't remember.
It's October, so.
Well, Probably this month, but it just came out on Netflix. It's a Netflix original, a South Korean
it was this
zombie
month.
film.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a South Korean zombie film, and if you have to pick between Peninsula or Hashtag Alive, please watch Hashtag Alive. Do not watch Peninsula for the life of us. Do not watch Peninsula. Watch Hashtag Alive, and I will promise you, you will not regret it. And also, there is a South Korean horror anthology show that came out, also called Goedam. It's also on Netflix as well, and it's really short. Each episode is no more than 5 minutes. The max is like 10 minutes, and they're based on Korean urban legends. And I even looked it up. There's actually like instructions on how to repeat those urban legends too. I'm like, nope, I ain't touching that. I am not messing with that.
Nope.
But they do show what happens when you do mess with that. So that's what Goedam is about. Yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it for this year's October Halloween special. Do you have anything else you want to add, Jonathan?
I just want to say, like, if there are any like spooky films or TV shows that you all want us to watch, like, definitely let us know. Like, we follow films pretty well, but then some stuff like flies under our radar that like we don't really hear about until like years later, and we're just like, where was this film? Like One Cut of the Dead, for example, right? Or
right.
like for our podcast outside Halloween special, like for like Giant Little Ones. Like, I love that film, and I didn't watch it until years after it came out, you know. So yeah, definitely let us know if you have recommendations. I know one of my friends already has suggested something, and so I'm excited to kind of take a look at that and see if it'll fit into our horror special for next year.
All right, and that's it for tonight's episode of The Outside Story. Thanks for tuning in.